G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now look, the junk is starting to come together. Yeah, I've got a coat of paint on it and I've done this rather snazzy wood effect here. I was going for sort of dirty, worn out and oil stained, and I think I've achieved it. And the method's not that hard, and I'm going to go through it step by step in this video and show you exactly how I managed to put all that together. Yep, so there you go. Does that sound interesting? I hope so. Let's get on with it. Roll the music. So here's where I left it last time. I'd done the dry wet fit. That's the fit where I use a little bit of this stuff. Yep, micro liquid tape. It's really good. It's contact adhesive. So it allows you to put it on both parts, and then you go put them together, they stay together, and then you can pull them apart if you want to paint them. That's what I'm going to do next. I've been working on some paint schemes, and look, here's a pic. That's kind of what I want to achieve. It's going to get close because it's not exactly the same sort of junk. But hey, one man's junk is another man's junk. Yep, basically it's just all junk. So let's get on with it. I'm going to start painting all the parts and then we can get into the wood effects. I have been very busy painting, and I've used a lot of my Stynorez yellow primer. Well, it's actually, they call it a neutral yellow. I often call this one a mustard. Sometimes it's called a mustard. And that's given me the base I need for wood effects. But when it came to the deck and the masts and a few other things, I wanted a slightly different base. I wanted something that would work better with bamboo. So I'd mixed in a little bit of this sage colour, but that is very green, and I didn't want, that to really be that sort of colour base, because that's a bit of a bugger. I needed something close to the red. So I actually then put in a dash of the red oxide primer from Stynorez. So it's a sort of a bit of a bash of this. Now I have no idea what colour amounts I used. It was sort of maybe equal quantities of that and then a 15th of that. So the colour actually ended up this, which is the same as that. That's unpainted and that is painted. So somehow I managed to mix up a colour that was identical to the spruce. But that's okay. You need primer on there so that your colour effects are going to work, because you can't go and put these washes just over the plastic. That doesn't work. It's, they're water-based, they just slide all over the place and they look blobby. You need a primer underneath, and the polyurethane that I use, Stynorez, is the perfect base primer for my Lifecolor liquid pigments. Okay, I've got those colours locked in. Now, have a little look at this. So, it's only slightly different in colour. In fact, it does have that kind of sagey green look here compared to the ochre yellow. But there's a lot more going to go on. We're certainly going to be doing a lot of wood effects, but also these junks weren't always just boring sort of dirty wood. They also quite often had gaudy colours. And far be it from me to do something just sort of ordinary and boring. I'm going to go the gaudy colours. Yep. In the spirit of this kit, we're pimping her up, baby. Yes, we're going to go some funny colours. All right. Let's get started. First thing I think I'll do, and this is still a wet dry fit because that is just my liquid tape. First thing, let's get some planking detail happening here. And again, far too uniform. We're going to mess this up. Now, to achieve a planking effect, to get, different shades of planks, I've done it a number of times, but usually on wood veneer. On actual plastic, one of the ways you do it is you actually cut out little pieces of masking tape and you put your base colour down, mask out some planks, spray another lighter colour or darker colour or whatever, mask a few more planks, and again, work your way up to you've got a variation about 3 or 4 colours. And that works really well. And then you run some washes over the top of it, smooth it all in, and you've got a fantastic effect, which is similar to what I've done in a number of videos showing you how to do plank effects. Recently I did it for the Warspite. Now, I'm not going to do that. I am going to cheat because I now have all these Posca paint pens, and they make my life so much easier because it's easier for me with my old wobbly hands to use a pen and mark than actually using a paintbrush. And anyhow, this is junk, so we're going to mess this up a lot. So I'm going to create a variation of plank tones. It's going to look horrible, but then we will add layers, and then we will add washes, and then we will add scratching, and the finished effect should be like a very well-worn junk deck. You try saying that with your teeth full. All right, let's give it a go. So at this point, you're probably thinking, Harry, you have lost your marbles. You really have gone crazy. I mean, yep, they definitely put you in the loony bin now, and you're using the crayons. Man, well, they're not crayons, they're Posca pens. If you've watched my other videos, you know this works, and you just have to trust it. And actually, the crazier the colour differentiation, the better. Although, at least I haven't used pinks and blues this time. I've just used everything in the sort of brown, orange through to white colour palette, because now we're going to add some things that are radically going to change this. Things like colonial dark sand and eroding dark rust and a bit of black umber. That always helps. And then my usual favourites, the wood deck shadow, which is what I use quite often, especially on the yellow. That works so well to get a wood effect, and the wood deck darkness. So we'll be using all of those. And then to tone it all down or to add a variation, I'll use some dried salt. Now these are all Lifecolor liquid pigments, and they do magical things. So let's see if I can turn this stripy deck into something that looks a bit more like worn wood. Right, we'll start with the Colonial Dark Sand, and that will start to sort of blend this in a bit, and that also will add a little more yellow to the whole thing, because it's looking a little bit too green at the minute, a little bit too green around the gills, but we'll work on that. And it's just a matter of this stuff, you just slap it on. I'm not putting it everywhere. Notice I'm kind of doing it patching. Now there is a method to my madness, because remember, I want this to look like a worn deck. I do not want a uniform look. That's the whole idea with these weird sort of blanks colours that I've put in there. All right. So a little bit of touch up there over the white. Here, I'll sort of just get rid of those and dull them down a bit. It's a bit worried about them. Actually, it turns out later the orange was actually the brightest colour. This one's the eroding dark red. And actually, this became a favourite of mine. I thought it would be too dark, but actually it kind of smudges and smokes out. And it started producing some really good effects later on when it dried. And again, I'm not going everywhere. I'm just splattering it in all over the place, right? So I want this sort of weird all over the place effect. Now, where's the next bottle, Harry? Come on, you can find it. There it is. This is the Wood Deck Shadow, and it's one of my favourite ones of this Lifecolor liquid pigments. I use it a lot on the English and the French ships and even the Dutch ships that I will be building, because it produces sort of an oak effect when it's put over that stone res sort of yellow. So it's great. Here, of course, no, I've got a bit of a brownie base, and also this isn't going to be oak. No, these junks were made out of teak and camphor and that sort of thing. So it's not the same look. So I need to use it sparingly. Okay, there we go. Let's move on. All right, so the effect is still there. In fact, I might be a little brighter than I need to be. That's okay. We can work with this. But what you can see is some of the effects that you get with those washes. So that's good to know. And I really like, that's actually eroded dark rust. That's one of my favourite ones. That's working well. But I've got a patina, and that's good. What I'm going to do now is the next trick is to tone this in. And I'm going to do a dry brush of this, which is just, it's signal brown, right? Sort of a reddy brown. So I start with some of the wet paint, but as usual with a dry brush, I get rid of most of it. So I get down to where there's just not much on my brush. Okay, and now with that very small amount, it's not quite a dry brush, it's more of a tonal change. And I'm going across the planks, right? So as you can see, there's only a minute amount of paint here. I'm really not using much at all. Alright, we'll leave that to dry now, and then we're going to add a dark wash. It's had enough time now to be basically touch dry, so it's not coming off. And I'm going to add the Wood Deck Dark. Now this is one that I use quite a lot when I'm doing all my other ships, because it's quite clever. You think it's going to ruin everything, but it doesn't. So it's really dark and you think, oh no, that's going to bugger everything. So you slap it on, right, thinking this is going to absolutely bugger the whole look, but it doesn't. Well, I've let that last wash dry, and now you start to see the effect. And despite all the madness before, you see that this actually starts to work. There's light planks, there's dark planks, there's a complete variation and a lot of colour. And I think that'll do. I'll leave this to dry a bit more, but I think this is pretty well at the stage where you don't really want to mess with it much further. It's working. It might require a little bit of touching up. There's a little bit of orange here that I might just subdue, but the rest of it looks fine. I think I've got a dirty deck. Yeah, that's something you don't want to say in public. And there you have it, the full effect with the hull sides on, which are of course painted that light yellow. They're going to get a whole lot of teak wood effects, and there's also going to be a bit of bling. Yeah, we've got to have bling. Yeah, we've got to pimp this one. So I hope you like that. That's a start anyway, and that's one effect. I have done the gunnels. Yeah, while I was waiting for all this to dry, I used a similar effect. The gunnels, not quite as harsh. I only ran the deck darkener, the deck lightener, and then a little bit of that dark sort of rust, which I really like. It gave a great little effect. So that's where we're heading with the junk. I hope you enjoyed that. And it's an easy method. You just got to build the layers up. That's all there is to it. Layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Yeah, just like a bloody cake. Yeah, just don't put this in the oven. It'll melt. All right, if you made it this far into the video, look, I thank you. And you have a job. Buttons, 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 buttons. Yes, hit those buttons. Those buttons are a plank, walk, and yay. Yeah, that's kind of how it is. And you can always buy me a curry. Yeah, I often need one. I'm suffering from lacks of curries. It's so moved. Still yet to find the best curry place down here. But it'll happen. It'll happen. All right. Well, lots more to come. We'll get onto the sides of the hull and get some colour on those, and they will start to really look quite schmick. And then we'll work on the deck furniture and all the way up to the sails. You never know, I might get this thing done in a month. Be a record for me. All right, that's it for now. It's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry and Denny.